Jake here for American Muscle, and today I'm taking a look at these SR Performance red caliper covers fitting various different models and trims of Challengers. Now before we dive in too deep here everyone, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this part has a complicated fitment for a bunch of different models and trims of Challengers, so please make sure you double check it before you buy. We've got it all spelled out on the website for you. If you're looking for a way to spruce up your Challenger without spending a fortune or a ton of your time, then a set of caliper covers might just be right for you. These red covers from SR Performance combine good looks, easy fitment, and some practical benefits to make for a cool, simple upgrade to your car. Now, caliper covers can be a bit of a hot button topic amongst some car enthusiasts, but they aren't without their purpose. These are an easy way to bring some additional style to your car and a little bit of functionality too. First thing you'll notice about these is that they don't look like your run-of-the-mill caliper covers. Many of those are just flat, maybe they have some fake bolts around the edges too, but these actually look like brake calipers. So they've got these pseudo bleeders on them, some bolts, and even some fake lines on the outside too, and they are also shaped much more like actual calipers with this raised section here in the middle to mimic the part where the piston is on your actual caliper. And of course you've got this bright red powder coat finish to add that nice little pop of color without the trouble of having to swap your whole caliper or paint the existing ones. And there is a practical function here too. Since these cover up parts of the caliper on the car, they can actually help cut down on brake dust as well. Not to say that they're gonna make less brake dust, just less of it is gonna make its way out onto the face of your wheels because these are gonna cover things up a bit. And since they're made from 6061 T6 aluminum, they also function as a bit of a heat sink, drawing some of that troublesome heat away from your pads and rotors. That aluminum construction also means that they're not gonna rust and they're gonna last for a long time. Pricing for the set is gonna come in at just under $300, and that does make them a bit less expensive than some of the other options out there in the category. While these may not have the logos engraved or stamped on here, I do think these would be my pick of the bunch because of that solid construction, and most importantly, the look that they provide. Plus, you can always engrave, paint, or modify them later if you wish. These look a bit more authentic, and they still have that little bit of practical purpose to boot. Again, just be sure to double check that fitment on our site before you buy. Installation is another selling point here since these are also quite easy to install. Coming in at a 1 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, these should only take you about an hour to get done, and I'd be willing to bet that most of that time will be spent jacking the car up and pulling the wheels off. Once you're at that point, these covers just clip on this side and you tighten them down, and that's it. They mount pretty securely too, so they're not gonna go flying or flapping around. So overall, this is definitely a job that you can accomplish at home in your driveway. Tools needed for this installation are an impact gun, a 22mm socket, a floor jack, jack stands, the included 4mm Allen wrench, the included 8mm open-ended wrench, and an optional pair of vice grips. And to show you exactly how to do it, let's throw it over to one of our AM customers.
If you have an impact, you can use an impact to pull your lug nuts. It's good to remember on the Challenger, the lug nuts are not a solid nut. They're a steel nut with a black cap on it. So you are best to have broke those loose with a manual tool rather than an impact to avoid damaging the cap on the lug nuts. And since these are already loose, they'll come right off with an impact. Just saves me a little time. Wheel off, set it aside. Now your brake caliper is completely exposed. Take your rear cover, they mount with the simulated bleeder pointing to the top. It makes a difference on how your clearance is on your brackets to the caliper. So we're gonna take the bolt out of the top part. The nut, bolt, and upper bracket. The lower bracket will hook the bottom of the caliper just here between the rotor and the caliper. The top will hook the top the same way. This hooks that. Slide it to the outside of the groove. Slide your bracket on the top. Once you hook the bottom and the top, just want to tap it and make sure it's all the way cinched up on the caliper on the bottom. So then I'm bottomed out here. Then on the top, the bracket comes really close. I've found that it helps sometimes to have a really small pair of vice grips. I've already pre-adjusted them a little bit, Tighten a little more. Just to hold that clip in place while you get your bolt in it. Stay up over the top. So your bolt goes in with the bolt from the inside, and then the nut goes on the top, like so. Run the nut down. Has Loctite, so it'll only spin a short ways freely. The nut on that, the Allen wrench on the bolt head. I'm just going to tighten it until it's good and snug. And the Loctite on the nut and bolt will help keep them from vibrating loose. It's nearly bottomed out, metal to metal. It's going to give a little wiggle. Make sure that it's very firm, flat mounted to my machine. Turn my wheels, make sure I have no rub between my brackets. It's all good, so I'll finish tightening it down. There you are, that's your back one installed nice and tight. And you'll repeat the same procedure for the other side rear. Okay, once you make sure your caliper cover is on nice and tight, everything's bottomed out, you spun your brakes to make sure there's no rubbing, you have good clearance, you're ready to put your wheel back on. It's best if you grab the wheel ballast from two separate sides. I always start with my bottom wheel lug nut first. It'll help stabilize the wheel while you're putting the rest of the lug nuts on. So while we're up here, I'm going to use a wrench and I'm going to run these down close to tight to bottom out the wheel. Once they're all back on, set the wheel back on. You always want to use a torque wrench. Torque your lug nuts to the factory spec, which for a Challenger is 95 to 110 foot-pounds of torque. So now that's the back. Repeat the process for the other side. We're going to move up to and do the front. I wanted to show a reference on the caliper covers. The front is significantly larger than the rear. So you can see this is the rear, this is the front, and they always mount with the simulated bleeder to the top of the position on which they're mounted. This is our driver's side front bracket. Mounts just the same as the back with the clips that hook the caliper bracket and a single bolt. So the clips will grab the caliper bracket just as thus. So you'll start by hooking the bottom one onto the bottom of the caliper bracket, snug it all the way up, pull it to the outside of its groove, slide on tight, slide the top bracket on, squeeze it to it, give a little tap at the bottom. Again, I keep me a small pair of vice grips handy when doing something like this. Find it much easier to put a clamp on that so I can let go of the bracket while I fondle with the hardware. Keep me from dropping things. Line up through the holes, all the way through. The nut on the outside. Oops. It is a locking nut. See, it's tapered, crowned on one side, flat on the other side. The crown side always goes up. So take the Allen wrench. and the wrench that it came with. Now that I've got it started, I'm going to take my vice grip back out of my way to give me more range of motion. And I'm going to tighten this right on down to bottom out the bracket against each other and close out the gap. It's all on, ensured it's tight, free clearance, no dragging. And there's our front caliper covers put on. Beautiful. Thank you, American Muscle.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the SR Performance red caliper covers fitting various different models and trims of Challengers. Thank you so much for watching, and for everything Challenger, remember to keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.